All right, a new book looks at how Israel has managed to become a leader in business innovation. Joining us now is Dan Senor. He is co-author of Startup Nation, the story of Israel's economic miracle, a senior fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. Dan, it's good to see you.
Hey, Joe. Good to be with you.
Good. Congratulations on on the book. And just give us how quickly. I used to read Cliff Notes. Can you do a Cliff Notes on what's in the book?
Sure. Yeah. Real quick. What's fascinating to us, Israel and the Middle East get a lot of coverage, but one side of the story that gets very little coverage is that Israel is the fastest growing, one of the most dynamic, entrepreneurial, and innovation-based economies on the planet that barely got hit by the global economic crisis in 2008. More Israeli companies on NASDAQ than all of Europe combined, than all of India, China, Korea, Japan combined. More global venture capital each year going into Israel on a per capita basis than the United States, 2.5 times more than the United States, 30 times more than Europe, even in 2008 when the global economy was melting down. And so this sparked our curiosity. How have the Israelis pulled it off in the least likely of places, surrounded by enemies, in a state of war since its founding, no oil, no access to regional capital or regional markets? And what can we in the West learn from it at a time that we are trying to reboot our own innovation economy and get real productivity gains, not credit bubble economic gains? And so we tried to look at the factors that have driven the Israelis, and is there anything driven their success, and is there anything prescriptive for us?
Yeah, we know about ISCAR, and Becky knows about ISCAR from ISCAR, yeah, from Buffett. That was one of the greatest managed companies and innovators he had ever seen. Yeah. Teva's the biggest generic company, Dan, but what did you find out? What drives the innovation? What's different? What are we not doing here with so much more opportunity and security?
Look, we go through 8 factors in the book. Let me just quickly focus on 2 or 3 of them. One is Israel's immigration and assimilation policies. The Israelis have very innovative policies in how they bend over backwards to bring people to their country from around the world. Israeli prime ministers run for office talking about how many immigrants they're going to get into the country. They don't view immigration as a burden, and they have some very innovative policies for assimilating them. Civilian research and development, they spend more as a percentage of their economy on R&D than any country in the world. And they have some very innovative ways for how they actually make that R&D funding matter. It's not just about spending, it's about how you make it matter to the startups and the companies using it. And the role of the military, Joe, is like amazing. These young 18-year-olds go into the military when they finish high school. Males serve for 3 years, females serve for 2 years. They get the most incredible leadership and entrepreneurial experience in the battlefield, and the entire economy knows how to read a military resume. Investors, CEOs of companies, when these guys come out of the military, they know how to integrate them and their battlefield experience into the economy, and the U.S. does not know how to do that. And we look at how we could better integrate our soldiers and Marines serving in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, coming back with incredible experience and getting them to work. We don't know how to do that today.
Hey, Dan, real quickly, is part of this because of the size? I mean, Israel's a nation about the size of New Jersey. You've got that issue. You've got the fact that it's such a young country. They're still looking for immigrants to come in. Is there a tipping point where all of that changes?
I don't think so. I mean, I think what is driving it is this sense of resilience. It's sort of a national ethos more than anything about survival, about, I mean, you know, startups, these entrepreneurs in Israel were taking unbelievable pay cuts, working next to nothing during the global meltdown because venture capital was drying up, and they just wouldn't give up, I think, in a way that their peers were giving up around the world. During wartime, they stay open. You mentioned Buffett and ISCAR. I mean, that's an amazing story. Katyusha rockets were flying right near the factories of the ISCAR headquarters as Buffett was making his decision about whether or not to go through with the deal. The CEO of ISCAR called Buffett and said, Warren, I want you to know, we interview him. We interview a number of these interesting characters, and it's through their eyes that we talk, tell these stories. He called Buffett and said, Warren, I want you to know, for our customers, there will be no war. And what he meant to say is, for his customers around the world, we won't be late on one single shipment, no matter what we do, no matter what bombs are blowing up. It is this sense of no matter what you throw at us, the Israelis argue, we will survive. And I think it's that ethos of survivability that we really try to explore and dig into and explain and see how some of that could be transferred here. Dan, that is the key driver.
Dan, is the Israeli government pro-business, pro-free market, pro-capitalism? Do you see us actually not heading that way, but maybe heading in the opposite direction?
It's funny. I feel that the U.S. government and the Israeli government are moving in opposite directions. The Israeli government was founded in I would say, neo-socialist roots, and the government meddled, and the economy was in terrible shape for much of the country's life. And it's really only in the last 10 or 15 years, particularly in the early 2000s, when Prime Minister Netanyahu was then Finance Minister Netanyahu, engaged in a number of reforms and privatizations that loosened up the economy and was a big factor. And he's obviously committed to moving more and more in that direction. The U.S. is moving in the opposite direction.
All right, yeah, that's troubling. So we're not heading that way, we're actually heading the opposite. That's not good. Anyway, because innovation is really that, I mean, we need it. It's like, you know, on everyone's top 5 things that companies need to go forward, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if we can cultivate a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation among our young people, the way the Israelis do, and that is one of the big areas of emphasis that we talk about in the book, is how do they teach young people about taking ownership, about responsibility, about being a manager, about being an entrepreneur, about how to make decisions every day with imperfect information, how to deal with ambiguity. It is amazing, the emphasis. We interviewed, you know, the CEOs of Google. We interviewed the CEOs of eBay, senior executives from Cisco. Cisco has bought 9 companies in Israel, and they're looking to buy more. We interviewed the senior leadership of Intel, and they all say, you take the average Israeli 25-year-old, when they finish their military experience and they finish their university experience, you take that 25-year-old and put him or her up against their peers anywhere else in the world, every single day of the week they would hire the Israeli, because their capacity to manage and lead at a young age and deal with real problems and have real perspective is unlike anything in the world.
Dan, thank you. And we hope to see you again soon. Good luck. Good luck with the book. Sounds
Thanks,
great.
guys. Good to be with you.
See you.